Have you ever had that nagging voice in your head that's telling you you're not good enough, you don't deserve this promotion, this opportunity, or whatever? Well, I have too. And I want to let you know that that voice is a liar. So let's dive into that a little bit. Here's what I know. Quotes, affirmation, and journaling are great tools to help you shift your mindset. And in today's mindful moment, in today's reflective storytelling, I want to share how journaling helped me remind myself that self doubt is a liar. So let's begin with that affirmation. Are you ready? You pay the tuition for your ambition. It's that simple. Now, I can't take credit for those wise words. They're actually coming from the very wonderful Ella Fitzgerald. But here are three things that I want you to remember. Number one, you desired it. Number two, you worked for it. Number three, you deserve it. My name is Maya D, and I'm a storyteller by trade. I do it most often through dance and in more recent times through writing, most of which is extensions of my journaling because journaling encourages that self awareness and self reflection. Um, and in these videos, or actually, let me back up for a second. As a child, my mother encouraged me to journal before I brought issues to her. And that process allowed me to digest my feelings, process my feelings and my ideas before I came to her. Now, let's be real clear. She did not put it that nicely. Her words were more like, fix yourself before you come talk to me. That's my mother. That's the way that she communicates. Regardless, in that process, I learned how to process my emotions and let a little of that steam off before I talked with her, which then led to better communication between the two of us and um, less punishment, less less getting in trouble because I was able to communicate my ideas. So I want to share how one of my reflections, adulthood reflections with you in this video right now. So feel free to get cozy. I'm taking out my notes. This is kind of like a mixture between storytelling and a TED Talk. So feel free to get cozy. If you're watching this on a replay, go ahead and press pause so you can get cozy. Or if you're just listening to it, let it play and finish whatever activity you're doing. Either way, I encourage you to ask questions because sharing is caring is the idea behind this. So, in me sharing my experiences, my reflections, ideally it inspires you to share something and then it has this exchange that we all grow better from. So, here we go. Now, remember, these reflections are pulled from my journal entries, so they're not elaborate works of art, but an intention to share insight on how I use journaling in my life and what it's illuminated. I offer this reflection to those questioning if they deserve that big promotion, that opportunity, and as a reminder that journaling increases self awareness and self accomplishment. Here we go. 5:45 p.m. Lays on bed crying and whining for about 10 minutes. 5:55 p.m. Stomps from the bedroom to the front door and then back yelling, "This is stupid. Why do I have to go?" 6 p.m. Heads back to the bedroom, takes out a phone and makes several funny videos to send to friends. 6:15 p.m. Stands up and very sadly says, "If I had a fantastic cape or robe, this would be more interesting. It's hard to be a magician in a world full of muggles." Then I get dressed and I head to my meeting. Reminder number one, you desired it. But why do you need a robe? Is what I asked myself in my journal. Hmm. Capes and majestic robes are visual markers for extraordinary people. I once wanted to be a medical doctor. And while that kind of changed, my desire for education and the right, excuse me, to wear some of those ridiculously wonderful and magical robes is still there. Hence the reference to the robe earlier. Part of me has always been driven and drawn to the robes and the capes because I know I'm special. Sometimes we forget that. It's important to remember. But I also know that perceived value fluctuates depending on the circumstances. I persevere because the idea is to get to don one of those wonderfully magical robes. Just in case you didn't get the Harry Potter reference, a muggle is someone who doesn't come from a lineage of magically endowed people. But I believe that I am magical. In the world of Harry Potter, and more specifically in Hogwarts, the Muggles are a part of a minority. They're looked down upon. Safely in the walls of Hogwarts, donning their magic and magnificent robes, magicians and other magically imbued creatures are the norm. And in this space, they can be precisely, unapologetically who they are while receiving a top notch education and some really great food that I feel like they never, I feel like they waste the food. So when we look at a character like Muggle-born Hermione Granger, while at school, Granger is other. She has to work twice as hard to get the same accolades and to feel like she is okay. But in order to be perceived, I would say, as equal. She can often be found doing extra reading or some other activity to improve her knowledge, her technique, and her performance. Away from Hogwarts, however, Muggles are the norm. So Harry Potter is othered. Away from Hogwarts, Potter is treated like a servant. He's underfed. And even though he has a wealth of power and fortune, he's not able to use those and is treated as less than. They both demonstrate, both Potter and Granger demonstrate a shared ambition, a desire to complete their education at Hogwarts. And as a result, they get to wear these really great robes as they continue along this path of creed of completing different tasks and challenges. You worked for it. I asked myself, what is the significance? What significance do the robes play in the land of the Muggles or the real world? Capes and majestic robes are visual markers that something interesting is about to happen and or that it has happened. You by seeing the wearer, you know that something amazing has happened to that person. Did you know that the Western tradition of wearing robes for graduation actually dates back to 12th century Europe? I like research. With the founding of some of its initial institutions of higher education. These institutions were actually founded by men of the clergy, and the roles were functional because they both kept their bodies warm as they walked through the halls, but they also kept their freshly shaven heads warm. So they were functional things. The variation of the hoods and the robes are visual deciphers of where a person was in their progression towards knowledge. So, in more contemporary times, when we grow to graduation, the robe system has been codified. And through looking at the robes and the regalia, we're able to tell whether a person has their bachelor's degree, their master's degree, or their doctorate. I think ambition is my superpower, my charge, and my challenge. As mentioned earlier, I love education and dressing up. So getting to wear that doctorate robe has been on my to-do list for a while, but the dissertation process is mm, uh, mm, I, like I currently have a master's in fine arts, and it's a terminal degree that falls somewhere between, I feel like it falls somewhere between a master's and a PhD. And I'm happy with what I've learned um, through my institutional education. And I've worked hard to complete some really great feats, but my binary eyes, at times, my binary perception does not like the in between space. So when I look at the definition of ambition, someone who has a strong desire uh, to achieve something, typically requiring determination and hard work, I'm like, we got to get out of this in between space. If you're anything like me, you've been working in the dark. literally and figuratively, late nights and early mornings, creating prototypes and plans that people might not ever see. I want you to remember though that your investment into your goals are priceless. Both your soul and the universe keeps a ledger of this work. Number 3, you deserve it. Well, here's the thing. Clearly, my ledger had been seen by someone else's eyes. And as a result, I was invited to attend this 2-hour long conversation with a group of academics to discuss some really deep philosophical questions. I didn't want to go because I feared that I would either be super bored or just not fit in. But here's my binary thinking again, right? It's either this or it's that. It can't be and. But if I had a robe, I would feel like I was amazing. I would feel extraordinary. And because robes are functional, I could use its pockets to stash some liquid courage in it, if you know what I mean. My fear increased as I walked through the stuffy room and everyone introduced themselves. There were 12 of us all together, and I was literally the only one without a PhD. I began to feel like Hermione Granger and immediately started scribing notes on this tiny piece of paper from the reading that we were given prior to the discussion. So we go around and we have the discussion, and people are sharing their thoughts about it and all of these things and sharing in our small groups. And then we have to share out, right? At the end, we were asked to share something meaningful that we heard. And to my surprise, 25% of the attendees shared something that I said. Okay, 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 okay. That was an eye opener for me because I almost let fear stop me. I almost let self doubt stop me from doing this. But in all actuality, my ambition had already paid the price. I deserved to be there. I clearly deserved to be there, and my mind needed the reminder of what my soul already knew. Oh, and I actually had a good time. These people were like, they were academics, but they were like, they were fun. They had some good stories. If you're anything like me, you've been working in the dark, literally and figuratively. But I want you to remember, not but, and I want you to remember your investment in your goals are priceless. The universe and your soul keep that perfect ledger of all that you have done. Those who know, and those who don't will know if and when they need to. In the meantime, keep doing what you're doing, investing in yourself, and staying determined to be the best you can be. In the words of the wonderful Ella Fitzgerald, I paid the tuition for my ambition. You desired it, you worked for it, so you deserve it. Quotes, affirmation, and journaling have been my tools for shifting my mindset. And I've included some journals and affirmations in the details. Remember to check those out. As a bonus, here's a journal prompt. You ready? Give you a second to get your pen or like your whatever you're going to write it down on. What's your current goal and how are you working towards it? Feel free to share your response in the comments below or just drop a book emoji so that I know that you're here with me. I hope you've enjoyed this story time. About 4 years ago, I've always journaled, but about 4 years ago, I began collecting these quotes and writing them on the left side of my journal. And then, for whatever reason, I began pairing them with affirmations, those 3 reminders. And I noticed this wonderful thing was happening. There was this synchronicity between, it felt like this synchronicity between what I was writing in my journal, what I was remembering, and the affirmations, those reminders. It seemed like the reminders were inspiring me to remember how I had enacted that very thing. And I thought, hey, well, this feels good because I am somebody that also goes back and reads through my journals from a month ago, a year ago, or several years ago. um so as I was thinking about like what could I do with this newfound thing, right, because sharing is caring, I decided to share my reflections in a blog. that I created during the pandemic. And while I know that some of us are really into reading, some of us are auditory learners, and listening to something, hearing something works better for us. So I decided to push myself to come on live for 30 days and or 30 experiences, and share 30 different experiences of what I've learned through my journaling and how I've applied journaling to my everyday life. Um, yeah, this is day 20, this is day 25. And I hope that you found this interesting in some kind of way, shape, form, or fashion. Please remember to like and subscribe if you have found it interesting in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And I will see you soon, hopefully. Take care.